Okay, so our volunteers, first of all, that's one of the great things about working in, having a sanctuary in a residential neighborhood is really easy to get to.
Okay.
We've got a lot of volunteers that can come in from all over the DC area. We've got a high school internship program, so they do volunteer, but they've also got a really a wonderful internship program. One of our programs that we have is called LEAP. Have you?
I have. We've had Danelle on our show. She's wonderful.
She's
Yes.
she's a hero. So we have a robust LEAP program for our high school students, and so that's an academic year program.
Mm-hmm.
And that program, so we just started it last year. We filled to capacity our first year. Next year we're doubling it. So we're having 2 LEAP programs. And the parents, because we've interviewed the parents of the LEAP program, they said that it's impacting the meals they make at the home, the food they buy, the clothes they wear. They tell their friends. Those high school students tell all their friends. So it's a ripple effect.
Welcome to the Better Life for Animals podcast, where we amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. Through powerful stories and expert insights, we shine a light on the efforts to rescue, protect, and advocate for animals. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening. Every follower helps us reach more people. And support animal sanctuaries. Enjoy the conversation.
My guest today is Michele Waldman. Michele is the founder and president of Rosie's Farm Sanctuary. Michele is a licensed psychotherapist focusing on trauma and relationship issues. Michele graduated from UC Berkeley with a Bachelor's of Science in Conservation and Resource Studies, hence her love of nature and ecology. She received a Master's in Counseling Psychology from the California Institute of Integrated Studies in San Francisco and a Master's in Latin American Studies with a focus in international marketing from UCLA. Michele was born in Auckland, New Zealand, and spent her childhood in Australia. She has worked and lived in 40 countries around the world. Michele is deeply involved with animal activism and animal rights. She was first made aware of the suffering of animals in the food industry by PETA when she was a student at UC Berkeley. She became a vegetarian right away and became vegan later in life, after learning about the atrocities of the dairy and egg industries. Michele started her journey in animal activism by volunteering at animal sanctuaries in California and helping to rescue calves from the dairy industry. It was her lifelong dream to open an animal sanctuary. Michele, welcome to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you here. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you made your dream come true?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Cheryl, thank you for having me here today. It's a great honor. I appreciate it.
Oh, likewise.
So it's funny listening to you talk about my bio. It's like, wow, I've done a lot of stuff.
Indeed.
And I would say starting Rosie's Farm Sanctuary is, other than having children, the most meaningful, important part of my entire life. I always knew I loved animals. I never made the connection between loving animals and I was eating them and the suffering that they endured. Until, like you said, I heard it when I was at 19 years old, when I was at Berkeley. PETA had those big signs on the street, and I passed by and I was like, wait, what is that? So I'd always wanted to do something for animals. The dream started kind of coalescing more into like a real vision when I turned 50. So I'm about to turn 58. So this is pretty recent. I was still a vegetarian at the time. And I started studying much more about what happens to animals in animal agriculture, became a vegan, and said, I need to do something more. I need to open an animal sanctuary. I just had no idea how I was going to make it happen.
So what did you do?
Well, I first had to explain to my husband that this is what I was going to do. And at the time, we were living in California, and real estate is incredibly expensive. So
Yes.
I had no idea how I was going to do it. So what I did first, honestly, was a little bit because I used to be in sales. So
Okay.
it was a little bit of my sales strategy. I just told anybody that would listen that I was going to open an animal sanctuary. And I kind of have this belief that if you just say it, like if you build it, they will come.
Okay.
If I say it enough, it will create enough of an energy and a reality. So I walked around saying it to anybody for about 4 years. Um, then we decided to move to Maryland because of the fires in California were really, really just, they've got too much for us.
Mm-hmm.
And when we moved here, we bought a house, and across the street from us, this didn't even go on the market for a couple of months. A couple months after we bought the house, 5 acres opened up with a little house where a sanctuary manager could live and 3 barns.
Sounds
And
like divine intervention.
absolutely. And I had initially thought in order to have a sanctuary, I'd have to have 100 acres. And so that would be, like something really big and model it after, something like Farm Sanctuary or Tamerlane Sanctuary, who are my role models. So have something really big like that, and people would drive an hour out of town and get there and come and stay and visit. But I thought, well, what if I have a really small sanctuary in a residential neighborhood
Hmm.
that is surrounded by schools, surrounded by churches and temples and Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and families? And like, what if I have a different model for this? And so we bought the land, we petitioned the government to open this up in a residential neighborhood, and we did it. It was a lot of divine intervention. It was a lot of praying. It was a lot of not sleeping at 3 a.m. in the morning, like, how am I going to make this work? And it was a lot of just faking it till I was making it, honestly, and just made it happen.
That's an incredible story. I love it. I love the idea of it being in an urban setting among all of the people who need to know,
Yeah.
that animals are sentient beings. So
Yeah.
that's kind of beautiful instead of making a trip out of it like we're going to the zoo, It's not we're not going, it's not a trek or a journey to have to go see, creatures that are supposed to be with us, not, around us just for our use. So I think that's incredible, and maybe that's a model for others. Yeah. As a psychotherapist with psychological mechanisms, do you see at play that allow people to disconnect from suffering from animals, especially those used in the food industry?
That's a great question. Absolutely. I see just so much compartmentalism. So I work with trauma, and I
Mhm.
work specifically with post-traumatic stress trauma, and I work with horrific abuses. I work with people that have been trafficked as children. I work with all sorts of PTSD. And what really never ceases to amaze me is that people are talking, traumatized people are talking about what's happened to them. They're horrified. They want justice. They want freedom. They need healing from it. And then they'll leave my office and go to a restaurant and get a burger. And just the ability to compartmentalize is it's been really painful for me. It's been hard for me as a therapist when people are coming in to see me for therapy, but I've got this whole animal activist side of me. So how do I bridge the two? Um, and it's I really try to very compassionately talk to people about how their trauma is no different than the trauma an animal is facing. We're all sentient beings. We all have mothers and fathers. We all have hopes. We all have dreams. We all have friends. Their dreams have been shattered. Your dreams have been shattered. So there are a lot of mechanisms in place that have people separate, the distinction between animals and humans. We're animals.
Right.
I mean, there's so many mechanisms in place, it's hard to even start. But like obviously large agriculture keeps it separate. Just people not even viewing into slaughterhouses. Um, but as a psychotherapist with the people I work with individuals and I do group therapy. Everybody knows that I have an animal sanctuary. And I talk about the suffering that the animals have had. And I correlate the experiences. Yeah.
I love that. You've worked and lived in 40 different countries. Do you notice any differences as you travel around and, how we treat animals versus others, the universal versus the learned aspects of our attitudes towards animals? Is it any different when you go abroad?
I think every culture's got their own rules or what they accept is acceptable or not. I remember when I was younger, I was in Nepal and I kind of snuck above this monastery. It was a Tibetan monastery. And it was a day of, it was animal sacrifice day where people were bringing in
Mm,
animals to sacrifice. And they had the belief that if they sacrifice their goat, their chicken, whatever animal they brought in, that they would be given some kind of special treatment by the gods. And I watched this quietly. Nobody knew I was there for the longest time. And what really stunned me was that like they truly believed it in their hearts. They weren't bad people. They were bringing in a goat to be sacrificed because they thought it would help their family. I had a lot of compassion for them, but it's just misinformation. And I've kind of seen this wherever I've gone, whatever country I've gone to, just the misinformation. I worked and lived in the Middle East for a long time, and just the way I saw women being treated. It's culturally accepted to treat women that way. I mean, I worked in some countries where, I saw women chained, and it was horrific, but it was culturally accepted. So what is really the difference? So in our culture here in the United States, it is culturally acceptable to eat farmed animals, but we don't eat dogs and cats. You go to other countries, it's culturally acceptable to eat dogs and cats. And one of the things that I find hard about the United States is some of the hypocrisy, finger pointing at other countries. Like, look what they're doing. They're eating dogs in South Korea.
right.
Okay, well, you're eating pigs here.
That's right.
And then someone will say, well, look how they're treating women. Look how they're treating women in Qatar. I'm like, okay, well, look how you're treating. Look how you're treating a family member. Look how you're treating chickens. I just personally don't see the difference. Living beings are living beings. I really feel that we're all equal.
And I think it's sanctuaries like Rosie's Farm that offer people that chance to see that. I'm wondering from a psychological perspective, do you think that direct interaction with these animals can help break down those mental barriers and or does it allow us to ignore, that we don't want to ignore their suffering? Does that help, you think?
Well, I became vegan because of an animal sanctuary. So I
Oh,
will tell
tell
you,
us.
right. So right when I turned 50, one of my sons went off to like a sports camp, and my other son didn't want to play sports. And so I said, what am I going to do with him? So I knew he loved animals. We used to go to Africa all the time and go on safaris. And I said, let me see if there's some animal thing around. And I saw that there were animal sanctuaries. So we decided to do a tour of animal sanctuaries. And that's actually when I became vegan. And it was animal sanctuaries that woke me up. And of course I said, I can't give up cheese. I've been vegetarian. There's no way I can give up cheese. God forbid I give up cheese. I can't give up eggs. But when I learned about the suffering of, cows, I learned about the suffering of sheep and goats and chickens and turkeys and ducks. There was no way I could go back. And so it woke me up. Then I started volunteering at animal sanctuaries. And then I opened an animal sanctuary. But what worked for me is that I wasn't judged when I visited those sanctuaries. I was welcomed, I was educated, I wasn't shunned. And so that is what we are trying to do at Rosie's, is that we are trying to meet people where they're at. So people may come to us thinking that they're coming to a petting zoo. They have no idea what they're getting into. Some people are just like, oh, the in-laws are in. What can we do around Washington, D.C. this weekend? Oh, let's go see some farmed animals. Isn't that cute? They don't know. Other people might have a family member that knows what's up and they invite their family in. And so, or teachers will bring a classroom of kids. And what we are trying to do is we're trying to meet people where they're at and educate them on the realities of this, of what's happening to these rescued animals. And we wake people up at different stages. Some people say, oh, I didn't know that animals would have a name. Or I didn't know, they had pigs had eyes that looked just like people. Or I didn't know that, cows had best friends. And it might be something really small like that. Or I didn't know that cows are called grass puppies and they run and they look like my dog at home. Or I didn't know that chickens had best friends and that they have 30 different sounds. It can be something small up until I didn't know that these were the animals we were eating. And I didn't know they suffered. And I think sanctuaries make an incredible difference.
I agree.
Incredible difference.
Yeah. Because it's set up that way for us to not know about that, to not know about the intelligence of a pig and the kindness of a cow and the gentleness and curiosity of a chicken. I think that's by design, and it's part of the system that we're trying to break up. And I think that your work is exactly what we need. So I thank you for that. What role do you believe that education and storytelling at sanctuaries play in changing hearts and minds? And how can these approaches help overcome the psychological defenses that people keep from acknowledging animal suffering?
It's such a great question. And I would say humane education is the number one thing we do at Rosie's. I'll just share about this quickly. We are only on 5 acres.
Mm-hmm.
We cannot rescue our way out of this nightmare. So nobody can. Even the really big sanctuaries can't rescue their way out of it. There are billions of animals suffering. We can only have, a handful of animals. We've got 4 or 5 dozen animals. That's all we can have. So what we do is we have animals from different industries of exploitation. So we'll have a sheep from the wool industry, sheep from from a lamb farm. We'll have cow from the dairy industry. We'll have a goat that was from a meat farm. We'll have goats that were from the dairy farm. Just from different industries of exploitation. We've got a sheep that was just rescued from research, as an example. So we are teaching, so people come in, they meet these animals, they look at them in their eyes. That our sanctuary is so small, everybody can touch the animals, tactile. They come and stroke them. They talk to them. They can feed them. They smell them. We've got a robust volunteer base. We've got tons of internships, high school internships year round. We've got thousands of people come in and do our tours. So they come in and meet them. They know their names. They see them on social media. They follow them. They hear all their stories. They make a personal connection to them. And so whether they come in ever thinking that they're going to give up eating meat or stop buying cosmetics where animals have been tested upon, it gets into their hearts. And I think once you break through that like psychological membrane where it gets out of the head, Like this is just what we do because my grandmother made brisket. So therefore
Right.
we have to serve brisket. Or this is what we do. We eat this kind of food amongst our friends. Once they start seeing these animals as living, breathing friends, they my hope is they'll stop eating them.
Mine too.
Yeah.
You're listening to Better Life for Animals podcast. Our mission is to amplify the voices of animal advocates, sanctuaries, and changemakers working toward a kinder, more compassionate world. But we can't do it alone. We need your help. First of all, go ahead and subscribe to this channel wherever you're watching or listening. And then get involved by visiting betterlifeforanimals.com. That's betterlifeforanimals.com. Be sure to check out our blog, learn more about incredible sanctuaries, and explore our book section, where 100% of net proceeds from book sales are donated to sanctuaries. Every action you take helps to make a difference. And remember, subscribe to this channel. And now, back to the show.
If you're just joining us, this is Better Life for Animals, and we're speaking with Michele Waldman of Rosie's Farm Sanctuary. How do you see the relationship between humans and animals evolving when people visit your sanctuary? You were just mentioning how they see them differently. Do you think that they then go home and make different choices? And how do you support them in that journey?
I absolutely know that people are making different connections about animals coming from Rosie's because we get the feedback. Not everybody, but we are planting seeds. So some people contact us afterwards and say they became vegan. Some people start with, okay, they fall in love with one of our pigs. We've got this sweet little potbelly pig named Marty, and he's named after Martin Luther King because he had a dream of freedom. And because I honestly think when any of these animals make it out of any situation that they've been in, it is a miracle. And I feel like they've all had a dream of freedom. So when they arrive at Rosie's, they are animal ambassadors. They represent their species. And so what happens is that people will make a connection with one of our animals. For example, Marty. And people will say, oh, he's the greatest. I had no idea pigs were so smart. I had no idea they were so funny. I didn't know they had senses of humor. I didn't know they loved to get their bellies rubbed. I didn't know they wagged their tails when they were happy. I'm going to stop eating pork. And we'll say, bravo, fantastic. Thank you for telling us. Thank you for telling us. They tell their friends. Then the next thing you know, they bring a friend on a tour. And that friend's got like 4 of their friends. And say, we want to come meet Marty. And I said, well, while you're meeting Marty, why don't you meet Sunshine and Danny? And they're 2 pigs that jumped off the Smithfield trucks. And then they'll say, what do you mean they jumped off the Smithfield trucks? And so on and so on and so on. And we just get so many stories, Cheryl. It's like I've got goosebumps. It's not as fast as I want it to happen. I want this overnight.
Agreed.
But we're one sanctuary, one human being that created this. And I've got a huge team of wonderful people and volunteers. And we're doing all we can.
And then some, Michele. I love what you said about having volunteers, and I heard that you work a lot with teenagers. Do they make up the main force of your volunteerism? And is it a program? How does that work?
Okay, so our volunteers, first of all, that's one of the great things about having a sanctuary in a residential neighborhood is it's really easy to get to.
Okay.
We've got a lot of volunteers that can come in from all over the DC area. We've got a high school internship program, so they do volunteer, but they've also got a really like a wonderful internship program. One of our programs that we have is called LEAP. Have you?
I have. We've had Danelle on our show. She's wonderful.
She's
Yes.
she's a hero. So we have a robust LEAP program for our high school students. And so that's an academic year program. And that program, so we just started it last year. We filled to capacity our first year. Next year we're doubling it. So we're having two LEAP programs. And the parents, because we've interviewed the parents of the LEAP program, they said that it's impacting the meals they make at the home, the food they break, the food they buy, the clothes they wear. They tell their friends. Those high school students tell all their friends. So it's a ripple effect. We've also got a high school program that work with our farm manager. So they learn about farm operations. So they're coming on doing, so that's a year-long program as well as a summer program. So we've just started a summer internship program for high school students. They can get letters to colleges that they're applying to, like letters of reference to any work that they want. They learn how to care for animals. They learn how to do social media. They learn how to help us in our gift shop. They learn how do we do food purchasing for the animals. They learn about animal care. I mean, it's really a fantastic program. And these high school kids, they light up when they come. And they show up, they work hard. We also do something here in Montgomery County. It's called SSL hours. So it's service hours for public schools. All
Okay.
12th graders are required to get a certain number of SSL hours. We're certified to offer those hours. So we get high school students that come just to do their SSL hours. And you should see their faces when they show up. Like the first time, like, oh, there's poop on the ground. Oh, touch it. They just, you know, they put their phones down. They get involved with it. They get their hands dirty. They bring their friends. They bring their uncles. They bring their aunts.
Because it's humane service and leadership that you can feel good about. They know that they can feel it.
Yeah, they can.
I love that it sounds like you've got a nice core of volunteers in part because of where you're located. But one thing I know for certain is that there's never enough money when you're running a sanctuary. And I'm wondering, how do you manage? Do you have fundraising campaigns? Do you have any tips and tricks that work especially well for you?
Oh, it's a process. It's really been hard, and donations are definitely down. We are outside of DC, and a lot of people have lost their jobs. People are concerned, and I really feel for that. So it has been a combination. We are a 501c3, and so we do get donations, and we have some monthly supporters. We are only 3 years old, so we are still kind of building momentum. I am so deeply touched by the generosity we have received from our donors. We do have to have ongoing fundraisers. We've had to be kind of creative about it. So we have something that's coming up on June 28th. We did one earlier this month called Paint and Sip with the Pigs. So one of our amazing volunteers, her name is Gwen. She teaches people that everybody gets a canvas. And first of all, we've got some, food and alcohol that has been donated. So we kind of have like a happy hour for the people that have bought a ticket. And then they go in with their canvas and they choose a pig, and the pigs paint with their snouts pictures for them. It is so unbelievable. I mean, the giggles and the joy and the relationship that people develop with the pig that they're working with. And then we take them on a tour and they meet all the animals, and they go home with this painting done by, like, their painting done by Winston, or their painting done by Ollie. And we give them a frame. And so that's one of the ways we do fundraisers. That's been really fun. And our tours bring in some money, so that helps. I hate how much we have to ask everybody for money. It's just kind of part and parcel of this work.
Right.
We've had some grants lately that I am just really grateful to. And it is a work in progress because we are new at this. And like I said, I'm a psychotherapist. I am really new at how to do the fundraising part. but there is no way that I'm going to let Rosie's fail.
I believe you. So that's probably what some of the most common misconceptions that people have is that, you're just this little farm in the neighborhood and you have a job, so you're fine, right? And that's just not the case. There's never enough. And the work you're doing is so important that, whatever we can do to help you to shine a light on what you're doing, and just it's an honor. So let us know how to find you and let us know how we can support you. Michele?
I really appreciate that. Thank you. And the work that you're doing is inspirational, and I really appreciate it. Broadcasting the message and reaching people at home, in their cars, whenever they're listening to podcasts is so important. Okay, so the way to find us, we are on social media under Rosie's Farm Sanctuary. We have also got a website, rosiesfarmsanctuary.org. I mean, those are kind of the best ways to find us. We have a really wonderful social media. I have a woman named Carrie Frey who runs it for us, and she's got such a big heart. And I think the social media has got this combination of not overwhelming people, like hitting them on the head. We are not PETA. PETA does what they do really well. So does Direct Action for Animals. What we're trying to really do is meet people like families, bring them in, bring people in kind of at the earlier stages of getting to know animals, at the earlier stages of waking up to this horrific issue that we're facing in animal agriculture. So there's a lot of inspiration, there's a lot of education, but we're not hitting them over the head so like their children couldn't see the social media. We do enough education that we're waking them up and inspiring them. The reason I'm saying this is I think some people are really afraid to look at social media on any kind of animal advocacy sites because it is so horrific. We're trying to tell the story and inspire people and not give them nightmares.
Well, I think that's where your psychotherapy comes into play so nicely because you know that, in some level, we're all traumatized.
We are all
and we're living in a dream that we are unable or unwilling to wake up from until we feel safe. So thank you for the work that you're doing. In conclusion, Michele, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we have to say goodbye?
Okay, well, that went quickly. I'll also say something that we're doing that I'm really proud of, and it's because we're close to DC, we're able to get involved with animal advocacy. So a couple years ago, there was a bill that was launched called Cage Free Maryland, and it was the whole goal of it is to get egg-laying birds out of battery cages.
Mm-hmm.
So we had the representatives and the delegates come to Rosie's, and they launched the bill from Rosie's. And I've been able to testify in the Maryland Senate, which has been really important to me. And we have a lot of organizations. We've had Mercy for Animals. We have PETA coming. A lot of organizations around here bring their donors in, and they can do tours and they can do offsites at Rosie's. So I just think we're located in a really well poised area to spread this message. And what I would say is that everybody's got their own mechanism of what they can do to make the world a better place. So look what you're doing. You're doing it in this way, and I'm sure you're doing a lot of other things. And I've got Rosie's, and look where Rosie's is located. It's near DC. What can we do? People can open a sanctuary on 1 acre. Everybody, if you can't open one and you can't do that, you can donate to a sanctuary. Everybody can do something, just choose to eat differently. Everybody can do something to make the world a better place.
Beautifully put, Michele. Michele, thank you so much. For those of you who have been listening, this has been Michele Waldman of Rosie's Farm Sanctuary. It's just been wonderful talking to you. I hope we get to see each other again. And for anyone who's enjoyed this podcast, if you would like and subscribe, because it helps us create a better life for animals.
Thank you for joining us on the Better Life for Animals podcast. Together, we can create a world where all beings are treated with dignity, respect, and care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening. It helps us reach more people and spread awareness about the incredible work happening in animal sanctuaries. You can also share this episode with friends and fellow advocates to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep speaking up, taking action, and making a difference for the animals.